We are on the cusp of Tafshin Peivav, and Bezrat Hashem, it's going to be an auspicious year this year. We hope it's going to be the Gula. We always hope it's going to be the Gula. But the Leshem tells us that the Leshem was written by Rabbi Yeshua's grandfather. It was authored by Rabbi Yeshua's grandfather. It was actually written by Rabbi Yeshua himself. He was a young boy. He penned it for his grandfather. And he brings there a Zohar, which brings two time periods. How long does it take to build the Beis Hamikdash? And for Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is not just bodies popping up from the ground, like suddenly you're going to walk outside and like all the graves are going to burst out and people are going to start walking around. Tchias HaMesim is a long process. We should just know that when Tchias HaMesim happens, we won't be walking around like we are now with a suit and a hat and a tie. We're going to be more ephemeral beings, which means we're going to be more Karen or Panav. We're taught that Moshe Rabbeinu's head was replaced, his physical head was replaced by light. We're going to be more ephemeral beings, much less physical, more spiritual, and that's going to be a transition. How long does that transition take? So the Leshem says either 214 or 209 years. If it's 214 years, seemingly that means that it has to be next year. But the catch is that the Leshem brings from Osis Akiva that there are opinions that the calendar is 93 years off. So we always have that way out. So we have to have a munah every single day that this is going to be the year that Mashiach will come. I assume it's going to be a very auspicious year, but we always have to hope for the best and expect the worst, as Winston Churchill and Rav Moshe Sternbach, Havdil, Elif Alfi Abdullas both said. In any event, I want to share with you today, since we hopefully are on the cusp of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and on the cusp of the Gula, we hope, an idea from the Tikkun Zohar, Tikkun Yud Ches Chai. A couple of ideas I want to share with you today. And one of them is that when the Gula comes, then the Zohar says that there won't be any more Choshech. Now, right now it's dark. Right now it is 4:22 in the morning. We're waiting for Slichas to start in another hour or so. Some of the Sfardim have already, beat the Ashkenazim to it and are already blowing the shofar. But it's dark out now, and darkness on one level is a physical entity. The Gra says, Yoitzer Or Ubari Choshech. Bor is a higher level of creation than Yotzer. Darkness is definitely a creation. It's not just the absence of light, but it's also metaphorical. Darkness represents the lack of Hashem's light in this world. It's the, as the Zohar calls it, it's the cloak of the Sitra Acher. It's the garb of the Sutton's clothing. And the Zohar says that when the Gula comes, basically the Sutton will be undressed, right? That it'll be declothing the Sutton. It's a nice title. Declothing the Sutton. That means there will be no more darkness, which means basically all truth will be revealed. It'll be out there in the open. There won't be any more deception. I often say the Yetzer Hara is a misnomer. Even though the Gra says there are 6 parts to the Yetzer Hara, that's Ra and Mirma, evil and deception, Gain, Gon, 2 types of Gaiva, and Taiva and Chemda, physical and non-physical desire. But the real name for the Yetzer Hara, if I was naming the Yetzer Hara, I would call it Yetzer Mirma or Yetzer Sheker, because the Yetzer Hara is really good at lying, and he's a really good liar. He could really convince you, right? Like these encyclopedia salesmen. Or one guy came to my house once. He said, "Do you have a water filter?" I said, "Actually, we do." Yeah, he said, "But it's not good enough. You're killing your family with this water filter because they're ingesting all sorts of poisonous minerals in their water, and if you don't buy our water filter, they're all going to die. I said, wow, that doesn't sound good. But like right now, I can't afford 20,000 shekels. At the time, that was like $6,000 for a new water filter. So I'll just have to dive into Hashem. They should protect me from all harmful water. But in any event, the Yetzer Mirma, as I'm going to call him today, so constantly trying to deceive us and convince us of things which are very, very far away, or should be very far away from our, like, Havamina, even like thinking about that. Like, for example, I just mentioned in Shir yesterday, as growing up, I was exposed to advertising. So there was something called a Big Mac attack. You pass by McDonald's, and if you haven't vomited from the putrid smell coming out, so maybe you'll have a Big Mac attack, which is that a hamburger with some lettuce and pickles and special sauce. I think they have some cheese on it also, just to make sure it's not just Nevela, but it's also basar v'chalav. It should be treif according to every single possible permutation. And you get an attack for it. Like you're suddenly walking down the street and it's like you're attacked by the Yetzer Mirma. It tells you have a Big Mac attack. So that's sheker, because especially if you're Jewish, you shouldn't be eating Big Macs for sure. Even small Macs are a problem. So, but we get deceived, and it doesn't have to be so dramatic. It could just be like you're just talking to someone and suddenly like get a desire to say, like, your tie, it's not so nice. Maybe you should get a new one. Maybe I should, but I have other ones. This one, it's kind of like I grabbed this morning in the dark room. In any event, so you say to somebody something like that, or you say something else that could hurt their feelings. There's an Issa D'Oraisa. It's Onah. There's something called Onah Stvarim. To hurt someone with words, and we have to choose our words carefully. The Gemara says about Rebbe, he was at a Suda, and they were serving tongue. I remember, first time I went to my aunt's house, and she's had this like big cow tongue on the table. I was like, what is this cow tongue? Oh my gosh. I feel so bad for this cow. It's like somebody cut out his tongue, he can't talk. But, okay, it wasn't bad, it was pretty good. The Gemara says that Rebbe was at a Suda, and they were serving tongue, and people were like sticking their fork in to get the softest one. He said, you see how careful you are? Be as careful to be soft with your tongue when it comes to talking to people. And we get this urge sometimes to say a word, and it might not be an urge, we might not be thinking. We might not be using that gray matter between our ears, and therefore we might say something which is hurtful. This all comes from darkness. If we understood how dangerous it is to say something that could upset our friend, we would talk with the greatest reverence, like we were talking with the Shekhinah. And in fact, Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach revealed the reason in 50 years, he never had a fight with his wife, because when he spoke to his wife, he said he was speaking to the Shekhinah. And it's true that women are a midah of malchus, and when a person is talking with his wife, he really is speaking to the Shekhinah. Men should realize that. But if we speak to every Jew as a Shekhinah, every Jew that has a chelik elokai mimal, and every Jew is like speaking to the Shekhinah. So we should try that. But that's because it's choshech, and we don't see that the Shekhinah, we don't see the greatest of every Jew. We don't realize how terrible it is to say even the smallest words of Onah Stvarim. And therefore, and when the Gula comes, the Yetzer Mirma, the Sitra Acher, will be declosed with a T, and he'll no longer have that darkness which stops us from identifying his evil ways. Hashem should help us during these auspicious times and help us to try and really see beyond the darkness, to see the truth, and to come closer and closer to him. Amen.